Hi, I'm Sherman Hardy, activist in Prince George's County, and I'm running for county executive. You're watching The Soul of the War.
Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the Soul of the War. Today, we're interviewing Sherman Hardy for our candidate spotlight. Welcome.
Hello, how are you? Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Can you tell the people who you are and what you're running for?
Okay, I am Sherman Hardy, and I am running to be Prince George's County next county executive. Um, I am pretty much a humble person. I grew up from humble beginnings. I joined the Air Force right out of high school. So that was pretty much where my character building comes from. And I still carry those ethos today, integrity first, service before self, and excellence, all that we do. I think those are three things that pretty much we all need in our lives to kind of be the best version of ourselves. But outside of that, I am an emergency manager. I went to college to do that, and also that's what brought me to the DMV when I started working at FEMA at the headquarters. So that's kind of where my integration into Prince George's County began.
Nice. So, where were you born? Where are you from?
Yeah, I'm originally from Miami, Florida.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. What school did you go to?
I went to American Senior High.
American Senior High. Okay. Did you go to college?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
So, of course, I was in the military at the time, so, I had to navigate through that system as well. But I went to American Military University and received my bachelor's in emergency and disaster management. So, by trade, I am an emergency manager.
Nice. So, with you coming out of the military, what is your take on Air Force ROTC, et cetera, in our high schools? Like the funding for it is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I would say the funding for our school system overall is ridiculous. But specifically with ROTC, I was in ROTC as well in high school. So what is your take on supporting that in the public school system?
I think it should be expanded. They really give you a sense of belonging in high school, and it's also camaraderie because it's people of different backgrounds that kind of join. It's not just typically the same people, and yeah, you get the misguided notion that it's all going to be raw and stuff like that, but it's actually quite a process, and it's a fun experience. I thoroughly enjoy being in JROTC. I was actually in the Coast Guard JROTC. That's the one that we had, the only one in the nation. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So what is your take on the reopening of the military academy here in Prince George's County? I think it was Forestville.
Yeah, anytime that we're able to reintroduce, some positive programs and reinforcements to our community, I think it's always a great thing. Hopefully, we get more veterans involved in the school system, and also begin to use veterans to become educators, because, as we were in ROTC, those teachers, they were very, astute in all type of affairs, and also brought a different viewpoint coming from the backgrounds that we come from.
So how would you do that? How would you get the retired military or even disabled military into the classroom? I think that's an excellent idea.
Yeah, actually it is. I mean, quite frankly, the programs are already out there. We just have to start using them. And I think,
Nice.
By getting those resources, you're going to be getting the educators and also federal funding. There's a lot of resources that get thrown at veterans when it works. Because I do have to, I am a disabled veteran, so I do understand, the intricate details of navigating through the Veterans Affairs. But outside of that, yeah, there's already programs that are, working, and different school systems are using it, and that's something that we should implement as well.
So speaking on education, what is your take on the current status of the Board of Education? Our current county executive has kind of consistently made the comment that she's staying out of it and she's not getting involved in the Board of Education, although we all know that she is heavily involved in the process of what is going on with the Board of Education, the turmoil and the chaos. What is your take on the Board of Education? How will you plan on unifying that board? Would you like to see a different dynamic when it comes to elected officials or appointed members? What is your take on that?
So for someone to say that they aren't, part of the process, or, haven't been monitoring it when they're chartered to, kind of appoint someone for that position, I think that's foolhardy. Because you have to have some sense of awareness, and you have to know what's going on in your departments. I mean, what else is, that's whatever. So, but that's enough of that. But what I want to do, I want to ensure that cohesion is built. Being in the military, I work with tons of people that I don't like. I work with racist people, to be quite honest with you. Um,
I dealt with racism
yeah,
when I worked at Army Corps, so yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
absolutely. So I know how to navigate the system. And hopefully, I would have already said, hey, we need some type of mediation. We need to get everybody in the room and have a come to Jesus moment because that dysfunction is harming children. Like people don't understand the detriment that is done because if you're not paying attention to the needs of the children, then what are you doing? Your sole purpose is to be there to advocate for the school system, and you're not doing that by being, a stopgap or a blockade. What I would like to see the General Assembly act and not just continue to talk about, the trouble that's going on there, and return the board back to all elected. And I know, people say, oh, it's been this way, it's been that way, but it's always been interference in it. And we have to start looking at the intricate details of instances when we say things didn't work. Well, why didn't they work? Because there were people that were still appointed. There were still people. It's just it's a process, and it's all political.
I'm very curious on. I was born and raised in Prince George's County. I came through the Prince George's County public school system, and there even when I was in school, which wasn't that long ago, granted, 2015.
Right?
But when I was in the school system, and before I could, got to high school, we consistently heard, oh, the kids at Prince George's County, they're always in school fighting, they're not in there learning. What are you going to do to change that dynamic when it comes to the fights that are ongoing in schools, specifically now that the pandemic has taken place and there has been a lot more fights since the kids have come back to school?
Yeah.
What are you going to do to kind of change those classroom dynamics?
So definitely what I'm hearing is we need more mental health in the school system. And I know when you begin to say that and talk about this unruly children or anyone, that's where you kind of go towards. But it's actually true. There's a lot of trauma and PTSD in the kids that are going to these schools, and they don't know how to control that rage or that anger, and they act out. And whoever gets it just gets it. And I think it's time that we start looking and say, okay, well, for the past X amount of years, we've been doing X, Y, and Z, and it has not worked. So what are we going to do different? I mean, sometimes we have to challenge ourselves and do the work.
Great, great. Okay, so you did bring up faith, I think, in one of your previous questions, but I do want to touch on it because here at the Soul of the War, we do kind of blur those lines. We make it comfortable for politicians, people looking to get into office, anyone, honestly, comfortable enough to speak about faith and speak about politics at the same time. That was something that I really had a challenge with when I was running for office because I am a woman of God and that is my foundation.
Right.
And it's not very popular to speak on faith in politics. Do you attend a church? Are you religious?
Yeah, I am religious. I was brought up Baptist and Pentecostal. I'm more so spiritual now. I do believe in a creator. I do believe that we are going to have to give a court one day for our deeds. So that's kind of where I hold my principles at. That and my grandmother, she was also the driving force of my heart. So she always taught me that you don't have to you don't have to like everybody, but you have to love them.
Amen. Amen. So how would you say your faith has gotten you to be the man that you are today?
Yeah, I mean, we all go through a spiritual journey, and that journey, just like how Jesus went on his, for 40 days and nights. We all go through that process, and it's a learning process, and it's deconstructing and truly seeking and searching for yourself, the truth. The Bible says, study to show thyself approval, so that's what we all have to do.
Would you say that that is like your motivating Bible verse that like kind of moves you through life?
Not necessarily.
Okay, what would that verse be?
It was Psalms. I can't remember the exact passage, but he that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide in the shadow of the Almighty. That's the one that I truly
Amen.
believe in. That because when you go to that secret place, only person to have you is God. It's between you and Him.
Amen. Respect. I like that. I like that. Okay, so we also value educating the public in the most simplest form possible so that even a second grader could understand the roles that are going on. and the things that are happening here in Prince George's County, Maryland politics. Can you explain the role of the county executive in such simple form that a second grader could understand?
Yeah, I like to equate, because most people pay attention to national politics. I typically tell people that, your county executive or your governor is like the president, either at the state or the local level of the county. So pretty much that person is responsible for ensuring that all the departments in the county are working, and that all of our agreements are in order and stuff like that. They're the uh, executive branch. I know the second grader, but they execute the legislation and ensure that we're all copacetic.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Speaking of governor, how would you advocate effectively for Prince Georgians when it comes to if we do have a Republican governor in the upcoming election? How would you advocate effectively for Prince Georgians?
Okay, first of all, I'm going to rebuke that. We're not going to let that out into the atmosphere and to the universe. Definitely, I am praying and interceding that we get a Democratic governor. We need to, get back to business and having a General Assembly and an effective executive branch. But in the event that that does not happen, it's still incumbent upon us to still put those guardrails in place. You just can't be asleep at the wheel. And the most important factor of it doesn't matter if it's a D or R, it's what people are doing for the people. It's what elected officials are doing for the people. Because there's people running around with D's behind their name, and there's skin folk who ain't kin folk. So, we have to take, account for that as well. Just
Absolutely.
because somebody looks like you or they have, Democratic behind their names. I mean, they didn't support the Democratic governor a couple of years ago like they should. And I know everybody's kind of be looking at this like, did he say that? Yeah, absolutely, because it's facts. And we have to start paying attention to the hard truths, in this county.
No, that's very, very, very real. Very real. That is actually the war that we speak on in the soul of the war. We don't like to pick a side, or
Right.
I am a registered Democrat, but I think that we all bring something to the table.
Absolutely.
And I think that there is a way that we can be united and do what's right by the people for the
Yeah.
people, without having to pick a side. So excellent, thank you. When it comes to Governor Hogan, speaking on the governor, he recently made a comment about refunding the police. What is your thoughts on that?
I don't.
Have you had
I'm
a
trying
chance to
to
look at the
navigate.
plan itself?
I have not, but
Okay,
I
we
do
can
understand.
pull it up on the screen for you.
Okay. I think it's bloated. It's definitely bloated. I do agree that the pay rate should be around the national average, or the average for locally here. But I also think that we are already doing what's necessary for recruiting. It isn't the fact of throwing money at it for the recruiting. And I do agree that we do need to fund body cameras. So that's very important. And as a matter of fact, Prince George's County should have outfitted all of their officers by earlier this year, actually, with body worn cameras. So it will be interesting to know exactly where those funds are going to go, because if we already have them, exactly what they're going to use. Now, I do wish that we would update our technology when it comes to policing as well, and that will be also a cost-saving method. So we don't necessarily have to keep throwing money at the problem, but also just make it more efficient with what we have as well. I know we keep tapping into rainy day funds, but it was just raining during COVID, and they were frozen. Notwithstanding, the true issues that we have going on in our communities, but throwing more policing at it has never been the answer, and history has shown that since. Yeah, history has shown us that throwing money at it is not going to solve all.
Yeah. Well, your opponent, the current county executive, her last race she was pretty much majority funded by the police department. And speaking of campaign funds, she has a little over $1 million in, raised for this campaign.
Right.
Well, we say that it's for this campaign. On
Right.
paper, it's for this campaign. But what is your thoughts on that? Like, that much money being raised for a county race, what's your thoughts on that? And then I'll follow up.
You know, I mean, that's how politics is. You know, she's the queen bee at this moment, and everybody's making sure that she's well taken care of. Even since she announced her county executive, and even before that, I don't like to dwell on what unfortunately, my opponent has, all that money. I'm hoping to run a good ground roots campaign and get people who truly want change in this county to step up behind my campaign and say, hey, this is what we need to be done to get done in this county. And it doesn't, $1 million is not going to, do it. Those are the people that I'm truly, searching for. It's definitely going to be an uphill battle, and I know that, whatever her war chest is, we're going to have to combat it,
Yeah, yeah. Well, how has your fundraising gone so far? And, what are your plans to continue to fundraise and reaching, your ultimate goal? Do you have a fundraising goal?
Yeah, so I am definitely working on that, and the fundraising has been going good. It's been mostly small donors at this point, and I am definitely reaching out to different networks and different businesses in the area to kind of get, their assistance with it. It's going to take a whole community approach. We're also asking people who just went through a pandemic and mostly who haven't worked to contribute to a campaign. So I'm also cognizant of that as well. I tell people $1, $5, 15, whatever you can actually give me to assist. And I don't ask for them to contribute or donate. I ask them to invest into my campaign because it's an investment into themselves. I'm not doing this for me.
And thank you for saying that. And you gave a very clean political response to that. But I'm going to say what I'm going to say about
Okay.
it because I think that it is wrong. And for people to be able to raise over $1 million for a county race, and then you have the average citizen who cannot do something like it's. I mean, just being realistic, unless you have some like huge donors,
Right.
it is almost unrealistic for you
Yeah.
to raise over $1 million to be on that same playing field as the current county executive. And I don't think that that's fair. I think that there needs to be limits on how much money can be raised for these specific races so that the average taxpayer who wants to get involved in their community are able to get involved in their community.
I mean, it's definitely suppressive, and we have different entities to thank for that. Supreme Court being one of them, allowing donations to be, how they are. But but we're set by different standards as well. Being on the local level. So I would like to see more firm and stringent, kind of laws that makes it easier and accessible for the common person to do what they need to do. Because of course, the more money you have, the more sample ballots you can send out, and that's what people think is gold when it's time to go and elect their elected officials.
Well, you brought it up, not me. So since you brought it up,
I'm known to bring up stuff.
do you plan on doing a sample ballot?
I don't plan on it,
Okay.
but if it happens, it happens.
Okay. And you know that the NAACP just recently came out speaking out against sample ballots,
Absolutely,
right? Yeah, and that was something that I definitely had to combat during my campaign as well because there was a lot of false information being put out on sample ballots.
Yeah.
So if you do decide to get put on a sample ballot, what I will say is that please just make sure that it's honest as possible because there's so many people that really do hold those sample ballots as gold.
Yeah.
And for a while, I can say people that are related to me, they didn't know any, they've been voting, college educated, voting from sample ballots because
It says official.
it says official and it looks official and they don't know everybody who's on their ballot.
Right.
So, yes.
Yeah, and we need to get the Central Committee to actually start, educating the voters on what these elections are. What are primaries? What are generals? What are, gubernatorial elections? What are presidential elections? Because, when I ran a couple of years ago for delegate in 25 and 25th, some people didn't even know why they were there. They were like, oh, is this the president race? And I'm like, no, love, this is, gubernatorial, and I'm running for District 25 delegate. But, it's definitely a process because, even on the earlier conversation, when you asked me to break it down to layman's term, what a county executive does, a lot of people don't know what these basic, representatives are. So you don't know who to go to when you actually have problems. All you know is stuff ain't working.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I 100% agree with you when it comes to the role of the central committees. Getting out there more and educating people on the rolls, educating people on hearings for when it comes to people being appointed to
Right.
positions.
Right.
That is extremely important because so many people, it goes right under their nose
Yeah.
and they don't know what's going on. So definitely. What is your take on this new redistricting commission?
Whew, so this, to me, goes down a long list of things that I would say is can't get right. They knew that this wouldn't be very popular, but they went ahead with it anyway. And that's indicative of the type of leadership that we do have in this county. Instead of going off an unbiased, kind of map that was done by a commission, they decided to have backroom deals, and and say that, oh, well, this council person or that council person should have had the opportunity to go and speak with the powers to be or the representatives who are drawing the lines. But you know when you're doing that, shouldn't everybody be in the room to talk about it? Because when you're taking from one district, you're disenfranchising, those voters, and their representatives should be present while you're subverting this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Yeah, they, well, that leads me right into my next question. How will you, as county executive, work to resolve the political corruption within development, construction, and redistricting in this county?
Well, for starters, to fight corruption in Prince George's County, I would like to establish an independent and autonomous inspector general. So that person could investigate any impropriety in the county, and that's to include county officials and everybody, myself included. I have this great disdain for corruption and elected officials taking advantage of the people they're sworn to represent. I take that oath very serious to the Constitution, as you've seen, and I think that will be a great start. And I know that there are people who have tried, county executives who have tried to do it and wasn't as successful. But I think if I am elected, well, actually, I know if I'm elected, it will send a resounding message to everybody across, Prince George's County, actually, and say that, hey, his platform is what we really want. We want an independent, autonomous inspector general. We want to have the Department of Consumer and Worker Protection that are going to protect people when development actually occurs and their foundation is falling. These are things that we should be looking into outside of all the pettiness and trifle issues that the council votes on.
Definitely. What will you do to make Prince Georgians feel more safe?
Do we mean safe from crime?
Crime.
Yeah, okay. There's a couple of pronged approaches that I was looking into, and I definitely had a discussion with a couple of officers on my Facebook page. But I would like to see, starting off, I would like to see us implement public service aides. These public service aides would be individuals who are non-sworn, so they won't have law enforcement arresting powers, but they will have the ability to do reports and also to go to traffic stops and also to respond to other incidents that doesn't require a heightened sense of awareness in a sense of them being in danger per se. And that's not to say that an event like that probably won't happen and it escalates, but at that point they would be able to get law enforcement who should be, within a few miles radius. I'm trying to free up the officers so they will be able to respond to more serious events and serious crimes and major crimes. I also was looking into changing the way policing is actually done. I would like to see less of the paperwork and more of a presence, definitely for that as well, by automating the system and kind of which I said, so that citizens actually, report different crimes and incidents that has happened to them, and then online an investigator will come out and resolve those issues, kind of like how when I was in North Carolina, actually, someone broke into my car, and I just filled out a police report online, and the officer, interviewed, he went out and did his investigation, everything like that. So, it's different things that we can do to kind of
That's
tweak the
awesome.
system. But what I don't want to do is make it easier for criminals. So, I'm open to, dialogue and discussion on what policing can look like and what it should look like.
Yes. Prince George's County gave out a lot of money to families when it comes to police brutality. I would love to see included in Hogan's plan of, refunding the police. I would love to see some money in there when it comes to people that have experienced traumatic events with police officers and getting them the resources that they need and the support that they need. Just like the program that they have called COPS, where they actually support, the widows of individuals
Right.
who significant others have or loved ones have passed in the line of duty. So that is something I would love to see as
I
well.
know it will probably be a perversion, but I mean, in a sense, they're victims as well, so they should be able to get money out of the victims fund. I mean, but first we'd have to prosecute those cops as well too. So,
But regardless of, they deserve quality, mental health services. So I would love to see that. What are you going to do aside from, the central committee, getting out there more to support and inform and educate the community? How will you as county executive inform the community and make it a priority and make sure the community understands who's on their ballot, what these roles and the positions are?
so, really what I want to do when I become county executive is kind of, like what we had in the military. We had commanders call. I would like, and that version would be town halls and stuff like that. I would like to do those quarterly. I think that, the county executive should be more visible and more present in the community. Do those in different areas and make sure that people are, I'm accessible, that people can come and talk to me. I'm very approachable, to be quite honest. But yeah, I think that is a good start, is being accessible and approachable in order to, handle these issues.
Okay. How do you plan to assist teachers in the county? How are you planning on increasing the amount of teachers we have, increasing the pay? Where would you like to see that money come out of to support teacher pay, et cetera?
Definitely, I would like to see the state and federal agencies step up and actually fund the county. That's where the money should come from. By charter, Maryland, is supposed to be paying for our education system, or the bulk of it. So, I mean, that's a good start. And I definitely think that our teachers and our educators should have compensable salaries that are measurable to, Montgomery County and DC and stuff, and those agencies as well. So yeah, we should be doing that, but we also need more counselors as well. So it's not going to be a huge tax, because we also have the current commission that went through as well, and that was supposed to render educators to be paid a salary similar to school systems across, the DMV.
Awesome. What will you do to assist the police shortage in the county?
I listened to the police commission when they had it a few months back, in response to criminal justice reform and stuff like that. And I believe that policing has to be more accessible, with the recruiters, and it's not just recruiting at colleges and military bases. Like, you have to go into some of the trenches where you normally haven't gone to. But it also is removing a lot of the encumbrances when it comes to applying for, to be a police officer. And some of the disqualifying factors as well, we should definitely be looking at some of those, because it was institutionalized. It was systemic oppression that was keeping many minority officers from joining the force. Yeah, those are some of the things that the first stops we should be looking into.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, we're going to wrap it up with these last couple questions, just, addressing your campaign specifically, and some advice that you can give to, people in my generation. So what is some advice that you would give someone running for office?
Like Frederick Douglass says, I always remember, agitate. You have to have it in your heart that this is what you're going to do. And when you have the heart of the people, it kind of, you operate in that all in itself. Don't do it for yourself because that'll sustain you, especially when you have people who are around you that support you and nudge you along, when you're not feeling your best. Definitely that's going to be crucial. So find that person and hold on to them, I guess, or those people.
Okay. If you could describe your campaign in 3 words, what would it be?
Ooh, 3 words for my campaign. Tenacious. I'm sorry, I'm having a brain fart.
You're fine. You're fine.
Trying to close some adjectives in order to describe this campaign, but it's vigorous and it's also exciting, because I'm doing something that, many people are scared to do, quite honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. This is a huge race. Last question. And this is the toughest one out of all the questions I've asked, okay? Where can you go to find out information on you?
Oh, geez, where can you go? I mean, I have a whole website, I'm telling you. I worked on it really hard. It's www.hardy4pg.com. And that's where you can find me.
Okay.
And I'm responsive, so anyone wants to reach out, I'm there.
Absolutely. And this information will also be available on my website, thesouloftheaward.org, where you'll be able to find out more information about the people running for office, specifically in the county executive race as well. Thank you so much for this opportunity, for sitting down with me, and for this fruitful conversation.
Yes.
I mean, this was awesome, so thank you.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Of course.
Awesome.